Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim Ryan, and on behalf of NJPN, I'd like to welcome you all to the 6th Annual Peer Recovery Support Summit, Advance, Connect, Transform, Shaping the Future of Peer Recovery Support. I'd like to thank the New Jersey Division of Mental Health and Addiction Services for their commitment to peer recovery support services and their support for this event. The Peer Recovery Support Summit Planning Committee and NJPN staff have worked extremely hard to make this experience beneficial for those providing peer recovery support services. This workshop is titled A Comprehensive Look at the NJ Peer Recovery Initiatives. This workshop will be facilitated by Rocky Schwartz, Tennille Jordan, Marjorie Timmerman, Nafisa Downs, Sarah McCoulis, Alba Canales, and Leslie Rubin. Before we begin the workshop, I'd like to go over some housekeeping items. First, the chat function is on the right side of your screen, and it is enabled for all workshops. And we highly encourage everyone to network and to say hello. This feature can also be used for interacting with the moderators and the presenter. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat. If we have enough time at the end of today's panel discussion, we will attempt to answer as many questions as possible. If you have a question for a specific panelist, please note that in your question. At the end of the session, a post-workshop survey link will be posted into the chat, and I'll make sure to pin it to the top so that everyone can easily access it. Please fill out this survey before leaving the session. Once you have completed the survey, we will generate your certification of completion for this workshop, and we will send it to you to the email that you registered for today's summit. And now it is my honor and pleasure to give you a short bio for our peer recovery panel. Rocky Schwartz is a certified peer recovery specialist in the Sharing the Hope Family Support Center, a division of Prevention Resources. She supervises the Family Support Center group grant for the Central Region. She has a degree in business and is a yoga teacher. Rocky was a recipient of an advocacy award by National Center for Advocacy and Recovery for Behavioral Health for her efforts to get a parity bill passed in New Jersey. In addition, the Mental Health Association in New Jersey and New Jersey National Alliance on Mental Health Illness presented her with an advocacy award. Rocky has testified 3 times before the New Jersey Assembly, once on Capitol Hill, and testified to the President's Commission on Combating Drug Addiction and the Opioid Crisis. Rocky is a staunch behavioral health advocate, fueled by lessons learned through personal experience and success in navigating the behavioral healthcare system. Marjorie Timmerman is the Senior Peer Services Coordinator for Sussex County Recovery Community Center. Marjorie oversees the CPRC grant, which is responsible for providing recovery supports to individuals and families affected by substance use disorder. Marjorie is passionate about the work that she does. She has years of experience in the recovery community and is a person in long-term recovery herself. Marjorie is a certified peer recovery specialist and holds a BA in criminal justice and an MA in Justice Administration and Public Service. Marjorie enjoys spending time with her family and her new granddaughter. She enjoys worship music, walking, and enjoying nature. Alba Canales has over 20 years of experience working with people struggling with addiction. 18 of those years were spent in an inpatient treatment facility setting. She joined RWJ Barnabas Health Institute for Prevention and Recovery in 2017 as a per diem peer recovery specialist. During this time, Alba conducted non-clinical, peer-to-peer bedside interventions for patients that were brought into the local hospital emergency room who had experienced an overdose and had Narcan administered. In 2018, she became a full-time employee and peer recovery specialist. Since that time, she provides supports to patients hospital-wide that deal with any type of substance use disorders. Sarah McCoulis is the supervising mental health specialist for telephone recovery support at Rutgers UBHC. A woman in continuous recovery since October 8, 2007, Sarah began as a peer with telephone recovery support in 2018. Sarah believes that joy is possible, hope is present, and people do recover. TRS is a small but mighty program, and where there's a lot of heart, there's a lot of power. Tennille Jordan is the program coordinator for the Maternal Wrap Around Program of Bergen and Passaic counties at CarePlus. She has worked on DMHAS-funded peer initiatives since 2018. She is a certified peer recovery specialist and a certified peer recovery support practitioner. Tennille has lived experience of mental health recovery and shares her journey to help clients find their own recovery. Tennille believes that recovery is holistic and that multiple factors can help drive someone's recovery. She received a bachelor's degree in professional and technical communication from NJIT and will begin working on the Master of Social Work degree at Rutgers University in the fall of 2022. Nafisa Downs is the supervisor of case management services for the Peer Recovery Program at RWJ Barnabas's Health Institute for Prevention and Recovery. Nafisa has over 15 years of experience working in the addiction and mental health fields. Nafisa supervises a talented and diverse team who is dedicated to supporting those who have a substance use disorder and their families. Nafisa has an MA degree in Human Services from Lincoln University in Pennsylvania and will complete the Masters of Social Work program at Rutgers University later this December. Nafisa is also a licensed alcohol and drug counselor. In 1995, Nafisa accepted the religion of Islam and has practiced its tenets ever since. Together, the Quran and the Sunnah provide the principles by which she strives to live her life. Leslie Rubin has worked with various populations in different levels of care and in multiple roles. She is currently the program coordinator of a reentry program where she works with peer health navigators. Leslie's caseload consists of participants re-entering society after more than a year of being incarcerated in a state correctional facility. Leslie identifies as a person in long-term recovery. Leslie values self-care and autonomy in treatment and engagement. She is trained in Reiki and highly informed on other holistic models. She always looks forward to growing personally and professionally, and she takes every opportunity to help others do the same. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and ask our panel to introduce themselves and answer the following questions. What is the name of your program, and if there is a corresponding acronym that your program provides? Please provide a 1 to 3 minute historical overview of your program. And within your program, what is your role specifically? And with that, I'm going to mute myself and turn the microphone over to Rocky Schwartz.
Thank you, Tim. I'm really overwhelmed by everyone's accomplishments and passion and the energy. Some of us were on a tech check earlier. I'm very, very honored to be with this group. I am a woman in long-term recovery, and I'm also a family member in recovery. And I think that's really important, that this is a disease that does run in families, but recovery can run in families too. The name of the program that I work for is the Family Support Center, known as the FSC. I'm so glad that we're defining acronyms. Very, very confusing. We actually have rebranded. We're calling ourselves the Sharing the Hope Family Support Center in the agency that I'm in, because the FSC gets very confused with the Family Success Centers that we're also co-located with them. So we are the Sharing the Hope Family Support Center. We are divided up into several regions. So I'm representing all of the family support centers in New Jersey. The southern region calls themselves Reconnections, and the northern region is also a family support center. And
oh no, I was going to say thank you so much. And what I'll do is I'll pass the microphone over to Marjorie.
But did you ask the historical overview too?
Oh, I got you. Yes. So if you
did not
don't
answer
mind,
that.
Sorry, I cut you off then. My apologies.
No.
So yes, provide a historical overview of your program.
Okay, so we're fairly new in this world. We are just wrapping up our 4th grant year. We initially supported family members who have a loved one with opioid use disorder. About 2 years into the program, we got additional funding for stimulant use disorder. And now we serve everyone. So any person who has a loved one with any kind of substance use, I just report everything separately. But we have people coming to us for all kinds of other, benzos, and cannabis is becoming a big deal. And alcohol, of course, one of those things that we never talk about. We're divided into 3 regions. So the northern region of New Jersey is managed by Matthew Gray at CARES Plus, and the southern region is managed by Josie Wilson, who is part of, what is her agency? Center for Family Services. And the central region, we share the grant with Prevention Links. Jewel Savitas is my colleague over there. But we offer this support to every county. We offer free, confidential support to anyone who has a loved one with substance use disorder. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rocky, and I apologize for cutting you off. Marjorie, go right ahead.
Hello, everyone. It's so great to be here. My name is Marjorie Timmerman, and I work for the Center for Prevention and Counseling. And the Center for Prevention and Counseling has what we consider 3 pillars. We have a prevention team, we have a counseling team, and then the newest one, which is the one where I'm the coordinator, is the Recovery Community Center, which would be the RCC. So we also have, as recovery supports, we have a number of the different grants that everybody will be speaking on. We have the OORP grant, the MWRAP, STAR, and then we also have a CLEAR program, which is working with law enforcement, and OHH, which is Operation Helping Hands, which is working with the prosecutor's office. So the Center for Prevention and Counseling has been in existence since 1974. So it's been around for a long time. Initially started out with just strictly alcohol and sort of like a clearinghouse, just to sort of refer people out for supports. So it's grown substantially over the years. And so in March of 2017, we were awarded funds to create a recovery community center. We were there was 2 other ones, and we were the 3rd one. So we've been around since then. And I am the senior peer services coordinator there, and responsible mainly for creating a community center of people who are in recovery, or families that are in supporters of recovery and allies, friends. And we plan events, activities, workshops, trainings. And then also a big part of the initiative in recovery community centers is that it be volunteer driven. So we do a lot of engaging with community to volunteer their time and to use their talents and their passions to create activities so that we can develop and create a community.
Thank you so much, Marjorie. Appreciate that. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Alba Canales.
Good afternoon, and thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to be part of this panel. So I work for the Overdose Opiate Recovery Program, which is known as OORP, and then that's when it first started, and then gradually we changed the name to Institute for Prevention and Recovery Program, which is known as the IFPR program. The program's been around, if I'm not mistaken, was up since like 2015, and of course what we do is we do bedside interventions. So it started out with just a group of a few people. Now what we do is that we service all of the RWJ Robert Wood hospitals across all of Central and South Jersey. And of course we've expanded, and they continue to into different programs. But the one that I work for is I am a peer recovery, so that's who I work for. Anything that I missed?
No, that was great, Alba. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And with that, I will turn it over to Sarah.
Hello. So I'm Sarah McCulis. I'm currently the supervising mental health specialist at TRS, and we are with Rutgers UBHC. So TRS stands for Telephone Recovery Support. And we like to joke that sometimes people think it means we help them find their phone. That's not the case. And our program was originally modeled on the TRS line that CCAR had created. So someone at the division, actually I think it was Suzanne at the division, really was interested in that type of support that they offered. And so she wanted to really spearhead and advocate for the creation of such a program in New Jersey, which is really exciting for us. So in 2018, we began, and it was me. and then shortly thereafter, we hired an additional peer support specialist, Stacy Van Auken, who I know is here with us virtually. And then we grew to have some support staff, which was wonderful. And then we hired a third person. And so it's just important to emphasize that. So we have Chris Malalis, who is another peer recovery support specialist. And then I had the opportunity to become the supervising mental health specialist. And so that's why we like to say that we're a small but mighty program, right? That you can do a lot with a few people. And so we try to represent in that way. And similar to some of the other programs, it started off with opioid use disorder. We made an internal decision that we would never turn anyone away for support. So from the get-go, regardless of kind of what substances you might be using or have questions about, we supported, no matter who called, we were going to offer support. And then we did have stimulants added to the funding source. And I assume that it'll kind of continue to grow and change. And I hope it does, right? Because as I think Rocky mentioned about alcohol, which we never talk about, but which we talk about all the time. So within those roles, I talked about that, my role. And then importantly, we also do have clinical support. And I just want to also mention Donovan Bedouard, who is our wonderful clinician that is affiliated with our program, also with UBHC. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Appreciate that information. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tennille.
Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be amongst peers and everybody doing all this great work in the state and on the Peer Summit today. My name is Tennille Jordan. I am a program coordinator with the Maternal Wrap Around Program of Bergen and Passaic counties. We provide intensive case management and peer support for women, for pregnant women and postpartum women struggling with addiction. So MWRAP, I actually have been fortunate enough to work on it since pretty much its beginning. I think the first RFP went out in 2017. I think that the agency I was at got awarded in 2018 initially. So I've had the good fortune of being able to see kind of this from the beginning. You know, fast forward to now, the grant, it used to be just for people with opiate use disorder. It has expanded to all substances, which is good to see. So we are just, you know, every client gets a case manager, a peer supporter, just to walk on this journey. I think the main thing we do is instill hope. I have a soft spot for this population. There are many factors, many barriers, many challenges, and just trying to help them navigate and really preach that there is hope. Even when you're pregnant, even when you're up against all these things, you can get recovery. So really just trying to provide that to them. So I think that's a bit of a historical overview. So we're fairly new too, right? Kind of with FSC. What we also like to do is just refer to the different partners, the family service, just to make sure these people are supported all around. You know, what we find is that it is a family illness, and a lot of times they're coming from addiction as same as struggling with it. So just in terms of the structure of my program, I think I have that here. So I'm the program coordinator, but for the clients, I work as a peer. That is something I say with a lot of pride. I get to share my mental health recovery and just things that I've learned along the way, and just get to connect them with a larger recovery community. So we also have, like I said before, a case manager and then a program manager in the mix. So just trying to figure out how to get the clients the services they need. So that is us in a nutshell. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Tennille. We're very glad to have you. We appreciate you being here and that information. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Nafisa Downs.
Thank you, everyone. I echo everyone's sentiments. This is the first time I'm ever doing anything like this. So this is really exciting, and to be in a room with people that have such extensive and rich histories and passion for doing this work. So like Timothy said, I'm Nafisa Downs, and I am one of the program supervisors for the Peer Recovery Program at R.W.J. Barnabas's Institute for Prevention and Recovery. So that's a whole mouthful. We got a couple lines of business going. So we have as Alba mentioned, the Bedside Intervention Program, which is OORP. We also have community-based case management and recovery coaching. We also have, and we do that in 4 counties, and we have the recovery nicotine addiction recovery program. And so we have a couple of different acronyms in there. A brief overview of our program. So in response to the opioid crisis, the Institute for Prevention and Recovery launched a program for opioid overdose in 2015-16, as Alba mentioned. And what they found was, past the opioid overdose service for clients that are Narcan reverse, there was still treatment or services or coaching needed. So the state of New Jersey created the STAR grant, Support Team for Addiction Recovery, and RWJ Barnabas was granted the award to provide services in 3 counties. And so fast forward to 2022, we've done a lot of work reaching out to the community, developing partnerships, and we are now figuring out a way to pull our programs together and create a seamless line for clients across the recovery-oriented system of care. So the OORP program gets them in, stabilization, intervention, or intervention stabilization, whatever that looks like that they need. When they get finished with that and they come out, the community-based recovery team picks them up for a longer walk. So we walk with them side by side, anchoring them, self-determination, helping clients push through to wellness and recovery. And we do that with a team with a 2-pronged approach. We have an intensive case management and a recovery coach. Recovery coaches in recovery walk along with them. The case manager kind of acts as their concierge, whatever it is that they need, where they need it. Oftentimes we take for granted that all things being equal, we know exactly where we're going. So we add some things into that. People can get overwhelmed with trying to move through towards recovery. So our idea and our passion is to help folk move through that and know that they have support. So the biggest thing is support. And I'm absolutely here as an advocate for that. So that's pretty much who we are.
Thank you so much, Nafisa. Appreciate that. We're happy to have you here. And last but not least, Miss Leslie Rubin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leslie Rubin, and I am the program coordinator for the IRTS program. So I wrote this down, even though I say this a million times a day. I wrote it down just to make sure that I don't mess up the acronym. The Intensive Recovery Treatment Support Program. So again, I just want to note it's such an honor to be here with all these other ladies and all the amazing work that they do. So our program is actually for the corrections population. And I think it's amazing because there weren't a ton of programs out there like our program, especially when we first came around and even now. So the first time I saw a prison release, you know, I saw someone walking towards me through the gates in a full prison suit with a brown paper bag. Like, I thought that only happened in the movies. Like, I could not believe that that was how people were released. And, you know, so many of them don't have housing and don't have good support, like echoing a lot of what, you know, all these other wonderful ladies have said. A lot of this is they're going home to environments that are not always conducive to recovery. So it's really important that they have all of our services. So what we do, a little history of us and what we do is, so this was a partnership that was initially discussed in 2017 and implemented in 2018. And it's kind of a joint effort between DMHAS, DOC, and then Rutgers. There was no RFP. You know, it was kind of partially Rutgers' invention. So we got the contract. We actually work among all 21 counties in the whole state. Like many of the other programs, we started just opioid use disorder and have moved to any substance use disorder. We recently took someone with a gambling use disorder, so it can really be anything that's making your life unmanageable and contributing to your risk of returning to jail. So our two main goals, really, the simplest way to put it, is to prevent recidivism and to prevent overdose deaths. So they were finding that both of which were very common for people coming out of long-term prison incarceration. The overdose because of the period of abstinence before, theoretically, and then recidivism because people are, again, up against so much. So, you know, I'm sure I'll talk about this later, but you know, we have a lot of participants that need help with everything. I mean, I just saw someone the other day that was like, Leslie, I did 30 years. I don't know how to do laundry. So these are things that we can do with them, you know, not necessarily for them. We try, like everyone else has talked about, autonomy, self-direction, learning how to do things. But even just making an appointment over the phone, you know, for some of our guys and girls, they haven't done that in 20 years, 10 years. It's hard for them to talk to people. So we'll do that with them. So I'm sure I forgot a whole bunch of stuff, but you know, it's an amazing program. And I too just want to echo, I think a bunch of ladies have said, I really value and appreciate and honor the fact that, so I'm a supervisor, I'm the supervisor of the program, which I have 12 peers, 2 case managers, and a nurse. Each participant has a peer health navigator assigned to them, a case manager for case management type things, and then a registered nurse. Because again, you know, just because you're in prison doesn't necessarily mean you're getting the medical or psychiatric care that you need. So when you come out, typically you have a laundry list of appointments that you need to make. So that's the team. But I really honor the fact that when I go into the field with my peers, I'm just another peer. When I pick up the participants, I can cover for my peers and I can go out into the community and I can explain this is what happened during my recovery. I'm in recovery. I can be very transparent and honest, which is wonderful because I've had a lot of experiences where it wasn't necessarily appropriate to take that stance with the people that I was working with. So thank you for everyone for being here.
Thank you so much, everyone. That's wonderful introductions. I'm really glad that I personally have been able, yes, virtual clap. I'm really happy that I'm here with each one of you, and I've gotten the opportunity a little bit now to learn something about each one of you and some of the programs that I'm not too familiar with, as I'm sure many of the attendees on this session are learning as well. I would like to point out, if you haven't been able to take a look, there are numerous shout outs to each one of you in the chat. People, you know, thanking you for being here and talking about the wonderful work that each one of you do. So it's really wonderful. And obviously it just goes to show that the work that each one of you, the work that I do, the work that many of the people on this summit do, right, really makes an impact, really does amazing things for the populations that we serve. And I want to personally thank each and every one of you for the work that you do. With that being said, we are now going to turn to the pre-provided Q&A session that we have provided the panels. I'm going to go around individually to each panelist. I will call you by name. I will ask you one question at a time, and feel free to take as much time as you need to respond to these questions. The more information, the better. I mean, I truly feel that you provide a lot of information and somebody's going to pick up something that they didn't know before. So again, this is wonderful, and I really appreciate each and every one of you for being here. With that being said, I'm going to put Rocky Schwartz on the hot seat. So Rocky, can you please tell us, how did you get into this kind of work?
Thank you, Tim. I am a woman in long-term recovery, but that isn't what really drove me into this work. I lost my sister 6 days after her 39th birthday of an overdose. It was in 2003, first time I'd ever even heard of Oxycontin. And then I lost my best friend that I grew up with 11 months later of an overdose. I used to joke that she was my, methadone soccer mom girlfriend who drove her minivan around. And so that began my, to fuel my desire to do something. But really what set me on fire is when both of my sons developed co-occurring disorders of substance use disorder and some mental health disorders. And that happened about 11 or 12 years ago. I naively believed that I was going to be able to prevent this. I thought perhaps when they observed the intense grief that I experienced when my sister passed, that they would never touch it, but it happens. So they certainly had the predisposition. And ultimately what happened was I was in complete shock how much our behavioral health system had changed from when I needed help. I went into treatment in 1982. And I had a full year of care. I had, the classic 28 days of inpatient treatment, and I was able to live in a halfway house setting, a three-quarter house setting for a year. And I know I wouldn't be alive today without that. And suddenly that wasn't available anymore. You could get maybe 5 days, 7 days. You're suicidal, but do you have a plan? I mean, I just was stunned. And, some people say it's passion that fuels you. I think it was rage and anger, and the mama bear came out. And NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, had a workshop earlier today. I started attending NAMI groups, and they really helped open the door for me for advocacy. A billing clerk at Carrier Clinic told me about something that I never knew about, the New Jersey Children's Catastrophic Illness Relief Fund. No one had heard of it, at least in the behavioral health field. That began kind of opened all new doors for me. I think I was the first person that had applied for it for behavioral health. I got asked to speak in the governor's office. There were cameras there from TV stations. And, because we had spent every single dime that we had, college savings funds borrowed against our house to try to keep my sons alive. And my parents didn't have to do that. And, that led to, you put your hand out there and other people grab you and say, come here, come join the Parity Coalition, come to this group. Prevention Resources, which is my employer, the CEO, reached out to me and said, there's going to be a grant to help family members. Would you like to come work for us if we receive this grant? And I am so grateful. I wish I had this 11 or 12 years ago. It has given me the opportunity to, out of devastating situations, to make the best of it, to be able to share my experience. I've been at 4 overdose awareness events this week. It's been quite an emotional week. I don't know how everybody else is. And I don't know why my sons are alive, but I am so grateful. And not everybody has been able to tap into the resources that we were able to tap into. But the fight was worth it. I got a lot of money back from the state of New Jersey. I got involved in getting a parity bill passed. It took 10 years. Parity means that mental health, behavioral health should be treated exactly the same as medical health. And a law has been on the books federally since 2007, and it's not being enforced. So that's what drove me into this work, Tim. It has completely changed my life. It's completely changed my recovery. I do recover out loud. I am so proud to be in a state, I'm looking at everybody on the screen. We have a full continuum of care now. Like Nafisa mentioned, if someone has an overdose and then they reverse via Narcan and then they go into OORP. And I mean, there is someone to hold your hand all the way through. And family members can make a huge difference in getting their loved one care, and helping to keep them alive. We do not believe in tough love. There's a lot of gray. We don't believe that people are enablers or codependent. We believe that we are parents trying to keep our kids alive. And so, as you could tell, this is like near and dear to me, and I'm very grateful that the state has funded this. Thanks.
Thank you, Rocky. I'm really glad, some of the stuff to kind of spark something that I wanted to say, but also people have been commenting in the chat about thank you for sharing your story. And I want to acknowledge each one of you who's on this call. I know that you will all be very transparent and open and honest in your story, whether that's recovery or not. And I just want to also just acknowledge that and say thank you for that, because this is not easy. I'm looking at the little eyeball right here. There's 174 people watching this right now. So I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your stories, because your story is what gives power to people who need to hear it. And I really appreciate that. And I want to acknowledge that before we continued. So Rocky, within the program that you are currently working with, are there any type of virtual programs that the families are able to access?
There are. Our agency, or our central region, we have 3 weekly craft-based family support groups that are virtual. We have tried to do a little hybrid, but families really seem to be comfortable with staying virtual. And I think it's one of the few good things that came out of the pandemic. Who ever heard of Zoom before? But let's say they have a loved one who's in crisis, or they don't want to leave them alone. They can stay home and still get the support. So yes, we do offer virtual resources. We'll meet with people one-on-one virtually. We also offer, I teach recovery yoga weekly. We work with the Recovery Center also. So we have families in recovery and people in recovery. We're on hiatus for the summer, but we're going to start up again. That's virtual. We also have a monthly book club for our families, and we purposely do not have anything about substance use disorder or suicide or any mental health issues. Fun, lighthearted books. We're trying to teach self-care. And we also offer a monthly virtual spirituality series. Thank you.
Absolutely. I love that. And thank you for sharing those resources. I can attest that I have attended one of the virtual recovery yoga sessions that Rocky has facilitated. And I will only say good things because that was my experience. It was really, really rewarding. Now, Rocky, what are the requirements for families to receive any kind of supportive services at FSC?
None. As long as they have a loved one who has a substance use disorder, and they don't have to, they could be a friend, they could be an acquaintance, they could be a cousin, they could be a neighbor. There are no requirements. And it's my favorite F word, free. Sorry, that was terrible. So many people on the call, I'm sorry. Yes, so there are no requirements. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Rocky. It's quite okay. You're in good company, I promise. So thank you so much for sharing all that information. Now that Rocky has gone, I will ask the panelists, if you don't mind, there are a lot of people asking in the chat to maybe how to connect with you individually outside of this room. So if you have the opportunity and perhaps you want to put your email address or something in the chat, this will give people the opportunity to reach out, to find more information, and to maybe ask some questions that we might not have time to answer later on. So again, Rocky, thank you so much. Okay. Miss Marjorie, time for you to go on the hot seat. Okay.
I was hoping that that number wasn't how many people were actually watching, but now that I know that.
That is the number. That is the number. But don't get nervous. You have already all introduced yourselves, and you're all doing a wonderful job. You know, and the greatest thing about it is that we're providing life-saving information here. We're providing information that will change lives and help people for many years to come. So it's good stuff. Okay, so Marjorie, if I was interested in finding a recovery center in my area, how would I go about doing so?
One of the first things I would do is, I really liked what Leslie shared earlier about you really never know what level of experience, skill, whatever, when someone's asking a question, something like that. And I think it is so important to really just not assume anything. And I always feel like if someone were calling me, and they have called me with that question, there's some interest in something about recovery. And like Rocky and everybody that sits on this panel and that's probably here at this conference has a real passion for helping others find recovery and support for that. So I think that's just so, for me, I always want to remember that when I pick up that phone and a question like that comes to me. Because if I can do anything to lead someone in the direction that they choose to go in, I just feel like that's my purpose. So, so what I would do and have done is there's a plug here, is newjersey-cars.org. So that organization, Coalition for Addiction Recovery Support. And what you can do is, if you go on their website and you go to their resources tab, they actually have a resource map, and you can type in a zip code, and there are certain other, criteria. You could do a radius, and it will pop up different recovery supports in the area. So I usually will direct people with that. And, and of course, if they don't have access to a computer or something, or they're not comfortable with the computer, I'll do it for them. And, just help them, because some people just don't have that kind of resource. So that's always been really helpful. And I also encourage them to look at the whole website and kind of look around. And then if they have any questions, just to get back to me. And they also, too, another plug for them is, they also have membership. If you want to become a member, it's free. And, by being a member, you're just making that organization stronger and stronger. So I just would like to encourage people to do that if they haven't. So that really would be probably the first place I would direct people. And then also the website for the state of New Jersey, and you could do it, recovery support services or addiction. And that, that's got a ton of information on that website. And again, depending on who's accessing that information, that something like that might be too overwhelming for people. So, I just like to try to, treat people with care, and just, try to encourage them to help them feel comfortable that if they don't know, it's okay to not know, and that we're here to help get them in the direction that they want to go.
That's great. Thank you, Marjorie. And I agree, right? It's a lot of times that, websites and things can be a little bit overwhelming, and, you get to the website, great, but then you don't know how to navigate it. And so I know that each one of you on this panel is always willing to do that hand holding and that step-by-step, to really help people get the services that they're looking for. With that being said, I also want to mention that Cindy Marie Dix posted in the chat the website for NJ CARS, and she also stated that if anyone has any questions or concerns regarding CARS, that they could reach out to her or Marjorie. I'm sure you as well.
Yeah, because I think, we're all on the computer, we're all doing all these things. And, I think you're right, Tim. It's just people, sometimes you don't realize that, people can look at stuff and it's just like so overwhelming or daunting. And, it's stuff that we just look at every day. And it's like, oh, yeah, but click, 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 So, yeah, I feel like it's important to have, understand that.
Yeah. I feel that it's similar to like technology, like with cell phones or something. I mean, sometimes I don't know what's wrong with my phone, and I usually give it to my youngest brother, and I'm like, here, help, right? Because like that's something that he grew up in. And I feel like a lot of times, like we just need to, to hand it over to the people that can really show us how to navigate these things and show us how to get the information we need. And I appreciate you being willing to do so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. So Marjorie, are the services at the recovery center all the same, or are there various types of services that people could access?
Well, there are different types of services. And I think that probably one of the biggest factors is really, looking at the different types of communities. Like, for example, where our recovery center is located is a very rural area. And there are a lot of recovery centers that are right in very populated, densely populated cities. So I really think geographics, like depending on what that area looks like, will kind of steer what kind of services that you're going to have at the recovery centers. So I know like a lot of the recovery centers that are more in a city environment, they have a lot more drop-in, activity during the day. Ours is more like in the evenings or on weekends. And also too, depending on the needs of the population, that's really going to also drive what kinds of activities, events, support meetings. And, you put stuff in those, on your calendar, you create events, and, some of them are well attended, so you sort of go in that direction and build on something like that, or you do things that that don't really get a lot of traction, so then they drop off. I mean, it's always like somebody said, what's a day like at your job? And I'm like, never the same. And and I think everybody's kind of shaking their heads, and that's a lot with what we do, because it's not so much, somebody had said something one time I thought it's not so much in the recovery community centers that we want the population changing. We want it to be growing, because, that's the thing with people in recovery. You want them to stay and be a part of that community. And so you really want to keep growing that community. And so it's really important to take the temperature often of what people are looking for, as far as recovery supports in their community, and what they're interested in and wanting to know about, or what's going to increase their recovery capital, what's going to, strengthen their recovery. And that goes for families, for people with, needing recovery supports too. So, there is a lot of factors that go into it. And, it's every month for us, it changes, meetings drop off, meetings increase, events, again, like, sometimes you think you're going to do something and get this great, turnout, and it's not real strong, but then, and other things you think aren't going to be as successful, you get a packed house. So, you never really know, of course, because you're dealing with people, and, but it does, the needs change, and geographics and transportation, housing, all those kinds of things, employment issues, that all play into, the nuances of each recovery center.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you pointed out that, like, your workday sometimes looks very different from one day to the next, right? And I mean, at least for me personally, I think that's one of the draws to this kind of work, is that, like, every day I feel accomplished that I did something different, that I helped somebody else. It's not that it's just repetitive and whatnot. And it's really a good experience. I think it's really rewarding to do this kind of work. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I mean, in the recovery center, that's the thing, we do a lot of events, and I love being connected to the community. But then, during the day, someone may come literally off the streets, and I'm sure people have had experiences with that, and really like that. I always feel like that's the most heart to heart, like human to human, just sharing each other's experience, and just someone really needing and wanting some help. And when we sit, like, literally across from each other and speak about recovery and what the needs are that they're looking for, which sometimes is just to be there for that hour or whatever it is they want to do, that's very, very meaningful. So just
No,
it's a big part. It's a part of my work that I really do love. So
absolutely. And I'll just say, I could see everyone nodding their head up and down, agreeing with what you're saying. And I think that's why a lot of us, or at least many of us, get into this work, is to provide support to people who are struggling, and to maybe even give back, to maybe what we've gone through, and to help other people navigate, their way through this journey. And super important.
Yep. Yes.
So thank you, Marjorie. All right, I have one more question for you. And this is on a topic that is very important, and it's gaining so much more traction. So I'm glad that this is part of this conversation. But are harm reduction centers the same as recovery centers?
Well, as far I can really speak on what recovery centers do, and we look more at the recovery supports and having events, and really connecting people socially, and also doing trainings. And then again, like I said, really looking at our community and engaging them in volunteer activities. Like, for example, if they have some type of passion or something that they're interested in that they never even really did in public, and they want to put it out there, we're really looking at helping them develop that, and also going out into the community and doing outreach and speaking on their recovery. So that's really more like the recovery center works more with that, where harm reduction, is needle exchange, I think more of a clinical setting. I mean, I'm sure there's linkage to services there, and we do that as well. But we also at the recovery community are really doing a lot more of connecting people with each other within the recovery community center, and also helping do education and workshops, and even just how to have fun and be able to socialize in a setting where people are not actively using substances. So that's really the recovery center's real main purpose, and mostly to really engage volunteers. I can't say enough about that. And I really love to, to like inspire, encourage people. I feel like just for my own personal self, I was so pressed down a lot in my life, that I really, I just want like everybody to just bloom, and really encourage people to really access and try not to be afraid of, you know, if it's something that they really want to work on in themselves and, you know, create something within the community. And we've had people do that. So.
Thank you, Marjorie. And I also want to say I greatly appreciate you bringing up the word fun. I feel like a lot of people who are entering recovery for the first time don't truly believe that they could have fun when they are no longer using, you know, and recovery centers play such a vital aspect into, you know, to that, to go on trips and to go on outings, Six Flags, paintball, go-karts, whatever, you know, the case may be, to show that you can actually have fun sober, or, you know, when you're not using, with other people who are doing the same exact thing, you know. And I think a lot of people don't realize that that's truly a possibility.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes it's like back to that thing about, you know, when people are, you know, they don't know how to access the right recovery support services. People sometimes aren't familiar with things, how to go and find places to have fun. You know, it's like sometimes it's like a lot of life skills that's maybe some of us just take for granted, and you know, I just assume so much sometimes, and you know, I just think that, you know, just taking the time to see where people are at, and then just helping them to feel comfortable to share where they're at, you know, and then help meet that need.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for all that information, Marjorie. It was really great and beneficial. Really appreciate you. And again, for the attendees that are watching this video, please feel free to comment, to ask questions to individual panelists. I'm moderating this panel, but I'm also trying to keep a close eye on the chat so that I don't miss anything. But really appreciate, Marjorie, all that information.
You're welcome.
And with that being said, I am going to move over to Miss Alba Canales. All set, Alba? Let you unmute yourself. You're good. Take your time. There you go. All right. So first and foremost, how does one become a recovery specialist in the OORP program?
You just have to go into the Robert Wood Johnson's behavioral link and look up the link, and you can see the different sites that have availability, and just go ahead and, you know, link on that and fill out the application. And then you'll get notified for an interview.
Awesome. If you don't mind, maybe after we're done, if you could post the link in the chat, if you might be able to do that,
Sure.
that would be great. I'm sure people would love to gain access to that. Thank you, Alba.
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So how do you keep yourself from burning out with seeing other people who are in the emergency department experiencing a crisis?
So, okay, and like someone was saying, every day is different, right? And sometimes, you know, after I finish an intervention, you know, I have to pick up the phone and make a phone call, you know, especially like when, you know, because I go in with my heart, right? And to do an intervention, and I'm hoping that this is the best outcome that can, you know, that, because that's what we pray for, right? The best outcome. And sometimes we'll go and we're thinking that this person is doing great, and then all of a sudden you start hearing the different illnesses or whatever, and you go and that person has passed away or something like that, and that is so heart-wrenching, you know. And you have to pick up the phone. I have to pick up the phone. I have to call my supervisor. I utilize my one-on-one supervisions, you know. I utilize my my group sessions. I utilize all of that, you know, besides my personal recovery, you know, because I am a woman in long-term recovery. I have a little bit over 20 years, which I'm very proud of, you know, which is the reason why I got into this, right? So that, you know, I can talk about these feelings of mine, right? And my emotions, because I don't want it to get the best of me, right? And I don't want to ever have to, you know, say, I went out because this became too much for me. So I definitely, you know, utilize all the resources that are around me. And I must say that IFPR, Institute for Prevention and Recovery, they offer all kinds of workshops on a daily basis so that we can have, you know, the balance that we need so that we can do the work that we need to do. For
Absolutely.
the employees, they do this every day, so it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for that, Alba. It sounds like a lot of what you are referring to is what many people commonly know as self-care, right? Is, you know,
Definitely self-care.
yeah, utilizing your self-care and whatever that might be to prevent you from burning out, to prevent you going into an episode to where you just can't handle yourself, and maybe you're experiencing vicarious trauma and whatnot. So I appreciate you mentioning all that, because I think it's truly important. And then last but not least for you, how does the OORP program connect people to other resources or referrals?
Okay, so what we do is when we do the bedside, we go in and we ask the social determinants. And once we identify what the needs are, we'll go and we'll get them the different information for the different referrals. You know, also what we have is we have navigators, which are clinicians, and they're the ones that we connect them to if a person wants to go into treatment, and they're the ones that we connect them to so that this way they can, you know, together they can determine what level of care that person's going to go into, and then from there, that patient navigator will go ahead and explore the different, you know, the different things that they would be needing, you know, whether it's IOP or, you know, short-term, long-term, whatever it is that they need, you know, as well as maybe sending them, because if it's somebody that will benefit from being referred to one of the community resources that we have also, such as the STAR, we do that also. We'll send them right there so that this way they can, you know, go ahead, because there's, you know, there's people, not everybody's so far gone, you know, so there's people that they just come and they, you know, they just had a relapse and they just need to get back on their bike type of thing. So these are people that will really benefit from other programs that we have, that have other resources so that they can, you know, get back to where they were. So that's what we do.
That's awesome. Thank you, Alba. It sounds like you see so many different people and so many different populations, and everybody in a different level of care, and everyone's needs might be, you know, completely different from the next. But if it's okay with you, I'd like to ask you a personal question. From working in this field in the ER for so long, working with people who have come in such a crisis with an overdose, how rewarding is it for you personally when you see people utilize the referrals that you've given them to and the access to the information, and they truly better themselves?
You know, you asked the question and I got all goosebumps, you know, because it's such an amazing thing. You know, like even here on this chat, one of the ladies said, you know, thank you, Miss Alba, for being, you know, such an important part of my recovery. This is what motivates me to want to go and not, you know, not help one, but want to be able to help the next 100, you know, because it's an experience and it's a feeling that's unexplainable. You know, it's so gratifying. You know, you know, it's like a boost that I get. Like, okay, I can do this another 1,000 times. I can go see another 100 so-and-sos, you know, because it helped one person. So I know it can help the next.
Absolutely. And in so many ways, it's like on to the next one, right? Like, who else can I help? Who else can I support? And I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, Sarah McCoulis. So Sarah, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Nervous.
You'll be fine, I promise. Everybody on this panel right now is doing a great job, doing really fantastic.
Everyone's doing a great job.
We're all doing fantastic. So Sarah,
yeah.
I know that you do a lot of work with the TRS for Rutgers University. How would someone access the services for telephone recovery support?
They would call us. So we were laughing. The team, I showed the questions to the team, and I said, let's look at the answers and kind of think about how we want to answer them and make sure that I'm representing, the best that I can. So not to be facetious, but really call us, 833 talk TRS. A lot of other groups have talked about, or a lot of other folks have talked about, low barrier, no barrier, free. It's really that simple. People just have to pick up the phone and call. They can send us an email as well to the MyTRS email address, and I'll put that in the chat, or I think Stacy or Chris, if one of you could put that in the chat, and ask for a phone call. They can do that. But it's really just that. So it's confidential. It's free. It's for anyone 18 years or older in the state of New Jersey. And it's for folks who are currently using substances, who are not using substances, who have questions about their substance use. We were reflecting on at the beginning of the pandemic that we actually had a lot of folks that had been in recovery, but when their resources changed or dried up, so to speak, or became unavailable, they were struggling. And suddenly we were kind of having folks, who had some type of recovery or even long-term recovery reach out to us, which was powerful. But we're available for anyone. So we've had folks see our posters in the train station. People get our phone number from SAMHSA, which always kind of tickles us when we say, well, where did you get our number? And there's SAMHSA. Probation officers, recovery court, therapists, word of mouth. I was writing down a kind of list to thank county jails, recovery court, if I didn't already say that. We had a participant who was housed with another person. They gave out our phone number, So really it's anyone who has questions, wants to talk. And so we kind of think of what we do in three kind of folds, right? So we provide, that telephone-based peer recovery support. But then what we're also trying to do is connect folks to all of the wonderful people on this panel and all of the other services throughout the state, right? So we just sort of like to think of ourselves as kind of, connective tissue, right? Trying to get people out. Someone else talked about, recovery-oriented systems of care, that long-term recovery, the gentleman who was the keynote speaker, that the importance of being connected to community resources and advocates and peers. So we kind of like to do that. So we're trying to, help people in that kind of space that they're in, and then also get them connected to those resources that exist out where they are. But the other kind of point to make, and I know the folks on this panel will know this, is that, where I am in my active use, like literally in the state, if I choose to go to treatment, we all know I'm going to treatment, like potentially somewhere else than where I live. And then when I get out of treatment, where I get housing might be a third completely different area. And then if I have a return to use, however many times I need to do that or whatever that's happening, that can happen, right, for someone, and does happen for folks. So what we'd like to talk about for TRS is but our number stays the same. And so no matter where you end up in the state, you can call us, and then we're also going to try to orient you to what's happening where you're at now, right, and those services that are in place now. So that's how folks get a hold of TRS. 833 talk TRS.
That's amazing stuff. And actually, Chris did post the phone number in the chat, so he got you.
Awesome.
I did just want to point something out that that I really appreciate you saying. The fact that we all do various work in this field, right? And some is similar, but some can be completely different depending on the organization and the program and whatnot. But I love the fact that we all collaboratively, this is not a competition, right? If someone walks through the doors at my facility and says, hey, I need this kind of support, and I can't assist that person with this kind of support, I have no problem with referring them to the place where they can, because that's that important.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with me or what I could do for the individual, but it's what the community can do for the individual.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So thank you for saying that, because I think that's an important thing to know.
Yeah.
And I know you talked a lot about the different kinds of people and the reasons that people do call TRS. But does someone have to be in a crisis to call TRS?
So we're actually not a crisis line. We're more of we like to think of ourselves as a warm line, right? So certainly we are equipped to handle crises, and certainly sometimes people we speak with experience crises, and they might even experience them while they're on the phone with us, for sure, So we have the ability and the tools and the resources to assist someone if they're in crisis. I think that I don't want to get too far out over my skis here, but we are often speaking with people who are actively using drugs, right? So our definition of a crisis might be different than the general population's definition of a crisis, if that's fair to say. And I see other people nodding, so you know what I'm talking about. Depending on what might be happening in someone's life, right? We're not a crisis line. We're not a hotline. We're not 911. We're not 988. So depending on someone's needs, we would really encourage and support someone to access the best service for them. But if someone calls us, we're not going to say, oh, you got to call 911 for that, or 988 for that. Certainly, we're not going to do that. So we're blessed. I think someone else said it, and I apologize, I can't remember who said, but that, the pandemic did really help to escalate and make us all familiar with these additional tools and resources. And so through our system, regardless of the day or the time, we can flag a clinician, we can ask for direct support. There's a team members that will respond and assist with any kind of other additional resources or services that are required to, be the best service that we can be to someone on the phone. Hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. That was wonderful information. And I love how you mentioned about the differences between crises. What's a crisis for me may not be a crisis for someone else, but it's not up to the public. It's not up to someone else to identify what's truly a crisis. So I appreciate you saying that, because a lot of times people feel backlash or stigma or whatnot when they're truly in crisis, but being told, oh, you're not really in crisis.
Right. And we have training to be able to assist people and to be able to, we've spoken about meeting people where they're at. And I think that can be defined in many ways. Right. And so it's just really important. I think that's the beauty of the training, not to prop NJPM, but seriously, that training that we get, and then the ongoing kind of job training and the opportunity to collaborate and talk to other programs helps us all to kind of evolve that. And spread the message about, that kind of unique work that we do. So
I love that. Thank you so much. And Sarah, last question for you. Is telephone recovery support the same thing as Never Use Alone?
So we are not the same thing. So if folks aren't familiar with Never Use Alone, and I don't work for them, so I can't necessarily represent them, but I'll do my best to speak about them. And if Stacy and Chris are still in, I don't know if one of you can pop that in the chat. So Never Use Alone is a harm reduction. I would describe them as a harm reduction phone support service, which basically, if someone is seeking to use drugs, but they want to be able to be connected with someone in case, well, I'm sure for lots of reasons, right? But one of the reasons might be that if they experience overdose while they're using, they have a protocol on Never Use Alone for not monitoring, that's not the right word choice. They'll be on the phone with someone, and then there's an agreement that if there's a period of time where there's no response, then they'll activate emergency response services for that person. So, we give out Never Use Alone's phone number, but we are not the same thing. And it was interesting because, again, this was one of those questions I wanted to really have conversation with the team about. We certainly have had people use drugs on the phone with us. We don't always know that they're using drugs on the phone with us. Sometimes that happens, right? If we're going to be really real, We've had people buy drugs on the phone with us. They put the phone down and then pick up the phone up and then kind of let us know what's going on. But we, again, we were speaking about this idea of like multiple pathways to recovery, harm reduction, like all of these kinds of things. And like, what does that mean in real time? So for us, what that means in real time is you're on the phone with me. We're going to use that as an opportunity to engage, right? Because there's that idea of that addiction, connection is the opposite of addiction. If you're on the phone with me, that's an opportunity for me or the team to connect with you and engage in harm reduction talk. If that's your definition, your current definition of recovery, right? Because again, some of those premises, you are in recovery if you say you are, and kind of like, what does recovery look like for you? And navigating that stuff, there's been a real evolution, especially for some of us, and for myself, I'll speak for myself, coming from a mutual aid group, mutual support group background, that amazing opportunity to understand and evolve my ideas in the work that we get to do. So again, harm reduction is a big part of what TRS does and talks about. So that might be reducing use, that might be about go slow, that might be engaging in syringe exchange, that might be lots of different things, right? That can kind of be lots of different things for folks. And then also, trying to get people to engage or connect to some of those additional services that are out there. And, again, I'll just say connection is the opposite of addiction. And we just feel so strongly for that. And we're so grateful. One of the cool things, again, is that we have the opportunity to stay in contact with people over sometimes years. And if there's a return to use, but then they stay engaged with the program, then there's that opportunity to continue to kind of be with them through that process. And we're just so grateful for that. So I'm going to zip my lip because I can keep talking just like all of us.
I know you said you were nervous, but you did great. So thank you. Yeah. And I also, I want to acknowledge that I feel like there's this reoccurring theme that I've heard a few of the panelists already mentioned, and even in the previous workshops that I've attended this morning, about you're in recovery when you say you are, meeting people where they're at. It's not for me as a peer to identify what recovery looks for you, because what your recovery looks like may be completely different than what my recovery looks like. So I appreciate you saying that. I think that's a very big thing in this peer world, right? Is that we utilize our stories to help guide people to where they want to be, not to where we want them to be.
Right.
So thank you, Sarah.
So
Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. And with that, I am going to turn the microphone over to Tennille Jordan.
I am ready, Timothy. Thank you.
All right. You ready for me?
Shoot.
All right. So how are people generally referred to the MWRAP program?
Okay. So, really the same from a multitude of sources, but our top 3 sources I think right now are from like outpatient treatment facilities. Sometimes during the intake, they will identify somebody who's pregnant and has a recent use, and then, inform them about the program. We do a lot of outreach to get us there, so people are aware of our service. So it's simply, they give, you just get the program manager or my name, and that's how we get the referral in our counties. So I would say outpatient treatment, OORP is a good referral source. I love when they call me. I really have tried to work very closely with the OORP teams in Bergen and Passaic County, because when they see a pregnant woman, I want them to call me. It's what I want to happen. It is the biggest compliment you can give me if you call me when that person's in need, because it's such a specific population, and this is really what we're trained to do. Work specifically with their struggle, so they don't get turned away from care when they really need it. So OORP is a great source. There is some self-referrals. We do a lot of just outreach. So sometimes, I'll just be talking to somebody and they'll let me know their situation. Recovery court, recovery centers are also a good places you're able to walk in and just say, look, I need help. So I've gotten some calls from that too. So I think it just runs the gamut. The other favorite place is client referrals, either current or former. When another friend, somebody in program is struggling, that's again one of the best compliments you can give me is, okay, they help me, they may be able to help you too. So that's pretty much how it works. But just for us, it's Matthew Gray is in charge of our program. He's the program manager. I'm the program coordinator for Bergen and Passaic counties. So just an email, a phone call. But if you have somebody in another county, I will always connect you. This is my thing. If you need a resource, I am happy to find it for you or point you in the right direction. So just want to shout out the other MWRAPs. I am lucky to be representing us today. But Rutgers UBHC covers some counties. All 21 counties are covered. Sioux Falls, the Southern New Jersey Perinatal Cooperative, and JSAS. So we are covered in New Jersey. Any women in this situation, there's a resource for it. So if you don't have it, call me and I'll get you there.
Thank you, Tennille. I love that. I feel like everyone's getting a shout out here, and at first you mentioned OORP and I was like, look at that, working collaboratively, right? Like that's what this is all about is helping the individuals that we're serving to make sure that they get the access that they need, especially if we can't provide it.
Yep.
So thank you for that. Tennille, how do you deal with working with mandated reporting, and how does this affect the building of rapport with your clients?
This is a phenomenal question and very, very complex. I think it's that rapport building with the client, partnering when you have to make that call to DCP&P. The work that I try to do with clients is not make DCP&P the enemy. If you are struggling, we might outreach together. If there's a plan in place where we're getting stabilized and you're working towards it, that's one thing. But it really is just looping that person in, not discussing it as a punitive measure, because that's what it feels like. So it's really just normalizing their feelings and partnering with them. DCP&P provides so many services when they become aware of somebody pregnant and struggling. And it's just an investigation until the child is born. So this could be a time where we can get a lot of resources to help them. So I try to educate them on that part of it. And so fortunately, I haven't had to do it where, somebody becomes mad at me or it's an estrangement. Just really trying to partner. But that other situation too, it's really just informing, I think, up front, these are the times when I do have to report, making people aware. That, I'm here to partner with you. But if you're a harm to yourself or to others or to your children, like I have to report, that is my job. So really it's just developing that partnership and having the person, it's asking for help. It's not punitive, right? You need help. You want to keep yourself and your child safe. You want to have a healthy pregnancy. So it really is partnering with the person to help them through that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. Breaking confidentiality is one of the most difficult things that we ever have to do as peers. Obviously, we try our best to let them know that we're doing this for your benefit. In your case, the benefit of yourself, but also the benefit of your child. But absolutely, as I'm sure many of us can identify with, it's tough to have to break confidentiality because a lot of times, people get upset, people get mad, they think it's punitive, they think that you're out to get them or something, and that's not the case at all. So I really appreciate bringing your experience into that light and kind of sharing what you do in those circumstances.
And one thing I like to do is I don't leave the person too when DCP&P becomes involved. I've been to many family team meetings with clients when they let me in. I've been there when people have come out to the house to see them because there is an intimidation factor. We've been in the hospital when baby's born and they're talking to the workers, the DCP&P workers for the first time. So I think, showing up and being there throughout that process is very important as well. So it's not like, okay, we have to do this, but I'm going to still walk you through it. I'm not leaving you. It's not punishment. I am with you. Let's learn to navigate.
I love that. So it's not just like, hey, this is the decision we had to make. It's now I'm going to support you and work with you to help you get what your needs are for that. So thank you. And Tennille, so how long typically does the MWRAP program engage individuals who come through the doors?
So it's anytime during pregnancy and up to 1 year postpartum. So I always say we get to see the baby turn 1. So it just, the length is going to vary depending on when we, were introduced to you during pregnancy or that postpartum period. But eligibility is up to that first postpartum year. First time around, I've had many first birthday parties, which was cool. Those original MWRAP babies are now turning 3 and 4, which is amazing. So again, just you see people in the recovery community and you see the growth. And so, you do get to help. I get to kind of help 2 people at a time, I always say. And then so up to that first year postpartum. So yeah, it's a long time that we can potentially be working with these clients. So you do, it's great because they have baby, then there's another set of challenges. So it's good to be able to be with them through that. It's not just getting baby born and, now everything is good, because that first postpartum year is very difficult. Being new to recovery, sometimes, there's issues if you're on the, using medical assisted treatment. So just there's so many steps to still walk through. So I'm glad that we have that much coverage to be able to support these women.
Again, I love that. So it's not just like the baby's born and then, that's it, good luck, right? It's
Yep.
making sure that they get the access to the next level of care, that not only the individual, but their child is going to need going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much, I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right. And with that, I am going to move to Nafisa Downs, who I have to say, I worked with the Union County STAR program for some time, so I'm really excited. I love this program, and I'm excited to hear you talk about it a little bit.
Absolutely.
All right. With that, what type of individuals, Nafisa, would you say engage with the STAR program?
Anyone that wants to improve the quality of their life and forward their path in recovery. So they come from everywhere. The community-based recovery coaching program, we service in Essex, Hudson, and Middlesex County clients that are diagnosed with opioid and stimulant use disorder. And in Monmouth, we provide the overflow. So clients that are right out of short-term residential treatment, clients that are out of long-term treatment, clients that are at home and experiencing challenges and barriers. It's anybody. Program referral, justice involved, self-referral, collaborative, referrals from collaboratives. So anyone across the state not across the state, but in the counties that we service that wants to help to improve their lives and need that recovery coaching. So that's the client. Those are the clients.
That's great. And you mentioned the opioids and stimulants, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So in Essex, Middlesex, and Hudson counties, we have the specific support team for addiction recovery STAR grant that services clients that have opioid or stimulant use disorder. In Monmouth County, we can stretch out a little bit. We can service anyone that has any substance use disorder or mental health. So we kind of provide the overflow support in Monmouth County for the STAR program that another agency holds.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. That's information to me. I did not know that. So I really appreciate you mentioning that.
Absolutely.
Nafisa, how is STAR different from something like OORP?
So in the beginning, when we started and we did the introduction, I sort of led to this a little bit. So the OORP program in our hospital systems, they act as the intervention and stabilization team. So we had somebody that comes into the hospital and it is fast moving and it is getting intervention clients or patients. Are you looking for services? Are you ready for services? Are you ready to get into treatment? And talking to them about what their life looks like. So we talk about meeting where they are, what their definition of recovery is, how they want to progress. And once the client or patient decides, okay, this is what I want to do, they are passed over or handed over to a patient navigator that helps them find a place that's going to be able to help them do what they need to do, right? So let's just say it is a client wants to go into a detox, but they're not interested in really short-term residential. They got some other stuff going on. Detox, get them into a detox program. That is intervention and stabilization. Post the detox, the community-based recovery and coaching services that we offer for a period of 12 to 15 months is when you come out of detox and your body has, you've rid your body of mind and mood altering substances, and now you're ready to deal with the other stuff. We have a team on the outside that will help you kind of walk through that, right? So it can be all new, and navigating different services, and just, I need somebody to talk to about what's going on with me right now so I don't experience a return to use, right? How do I move through this? And for some people, they have never had recovery before, so they need someone to kind of help them walk through it. And some people who have had time in recovery understand what it is, what support looks like. So the community-based team, a case manager that provides comprehensive case management services, and a recovery specialist, kind of anchor them, walk, I'm in the car, I'm driving, you tell me where to go. Where do you want to go? And it is definitely promoting self-determination. Clients own their recovery, right? This is me, this is mine, this is my plan, this is what works for me, and this is how I want to move through it. Our job is to support them through that. And non-judgmentally, and I remember when I first started at IFPR, our now AVP, he was director then, he used to say, we're going to lovingly wrap our arms around you, love on you until you can love yourself. So that was something that kind of stuck with me. So I tried to move that way, not forcing my agenda, my perspective, what I think, kind of helping you figure out what it is that you want to do. I think, yeah, that's it.
No, that was great. Again, meeting them where they're at, right? And I think it's such an important role to help people post their recovery, like when they stop using. I know as a peer, I can only speak for myself, but I thought that the hardest thing that I would have to do is to stop using. But when I stopped using, and now all of a sudden I got to get a job, I got to get a car, I got to pay rent, I got to pay a cell phone bill, like those kind of overwhelming feelings lead oftentimes right back to the usage, and to the problem that they created in the first place. And I think it's so vital to have a team of not only a case manager, but a peer recovery specialist to walk through that journey with them.
Right. Leslie mentioned earlier, clients coming out of a confinement, and do you know how to do laundry? Do you know how to fill out a money order? Do you know how to, okay, so when you go to social services, what do you say? Some of the things that we take for granted, I already know, like I can walk in, I need this, I need that, but the person standing next to me, that may be a different kind of situation and a tougher environment for them if they've never experienced that. Or I got so much other stuff going on, I just don't know where to start. Can you just help me prioritize this, right? What does that look like? And having somebody sit down with you and kind of go over that helps. And like you said, maybe thinking the hardest thing was stopping, and that might have been the easiest thing to do, was to stop. Now I got to eat right. I got to go to the doctor and deal with this diabetes. I have to, so you need somebody to help you kind of, okay, what are we talking about? What are the experiences and the feelings that we have, right? So yes, everybody, it's time. We got to do those preventative screenings. And what kind of anxiety does that cause? Women in recovery, you forget some things. You forget to do some things. Some stuff falls off. When we come into recovery, now it's time to address those things, and having someone kind of support you through that is powerful.
I love where you went there, because I went to like getting a phone and like paying rent and stuff, and you went straight to the healthcare, to the dentist, like these important things that so many people just don't think of. Like these are things that I have to do now that I'm no longer using, or now that I'm in my version of recovery, whatever that may look like. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because so many people, including myself, when I just mentioned that, wasn't even thinking about those things.
Social determinants of health.
Absolutely. 100%. Thank you, Nafisa. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Now, does someone have to be in any kind of a treatment program, inpatient, detox, 12-step, or anything regarding treatment to be a part of STAR?
1,000% not. 1,000% not. Not at all. That is not a requirement to be a participant in a program. The only requirement is that you want something different, and that you meet one of those use criteria. You want to be in the program, you need some help, we can support you. There is no criteria for treatment. Some people use us, okay, I've completed treatment, I still need some help, right? They want to do it consecutively rather than concurrently, which, build your own program. We talk about creating a continuum from intervention all the way down to maintenance. We are the action and maintenance stage.
I love that. So not just one point on that stage of change, like it's anywhere on that stage of change to help someone get to maybe that next level.
Absolutely. And it's not linear at all. It's not linear. We go back and forth. We might be in preparation and action about this, and pre-contemplation about that. So we work around all of that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's okay. Right. I love that you brought that up, because it's okay to be at different levels or to teeter totter back and forth. The fact of the matter is, as long as, an individual tries to stay engaged with you and tries to, still seek out some supportive care, that's what's really going to make a difference. All right. So I got one more for you. Is the STAR program able to drive people to various appointments, whether that be 12-step meeting, maybe going to see a doctor, or really anything?
So our program, unfortunately, does not have a physical transportation component, meaning I can't physically pick you up and take you somewhere, but I can help you get there, right? So if it's a doctor's appointment, we service clients that are involved with recovery court, reentry. If you need to get there, we can Uber you to those places. We also provide bus cards, bus tickets, if you need to move around and get some places. When the recovery specialists meet a client at a meeting, that's usually what it is. They meet them at the meeting. So we plan in advance. Okay, Tim, are you going to be going to meetings this week? Yep, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there. We check zones. Right? How far is that meeting from where you are? How many zones? So we provide 1 and 2, 3, and just here recently we got a 4-zone bus pass, which was unusual for me. I didn't even think we did that, but we provide, we help you get there. I can't physically take you there, but I can help you get there. And we do a lot with New Jersey Transit app and bus schedules and things like that. And again, teaching people how to use those services, or helping them re-engage in learning how to use those services. So short answer is no, I don't drive you. Longer answer is I'll help you get wherever it is that you need to go as best I can.
And that's the most important thing, right? Because it's one of those things where when you're entering recovery and you're making all these doctor's appointments or healthcare visits, that's great. But if you can't get there,
right,
it means nothing. So to have a service, and transportation is such a big barrier. So to have, the STAR program able to, like you said, not physically pick you up and drive you, but we'll help you with a bus ticket, we'll help you with a train ticket, whatever the case may be, we'll get you to that appointment. Don't you worry.
Absolutely. And, keeping in mind that transportation looks different in Essex and Hudson counties than it does in Monmouth and maybe even Middlesex counties, right? So stuff is kind of spread out. It takes a little bit longer. And services are kind of spread out. We were talking earlier today about connecting clients with different services. I would love, a collaborative in every county. I have this client, how can we get them some help? So knowing where those maps are, knowing where services are is really, really important to help. That's one less thing that I have to worry about. I meaning the client.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Nafisa. I really appreciate all that information that you provided. It's such amazing stuff that you guys are doing. I know I just will say for you and for many other people that have already shared, some people have been typing in the chat asking for contact info. I know many of you have already posted it, but it looks like some people maybe don't see it or they maybe it's higher up on the chat that they haven't seen it yet. So if you all don't mind one more time throwing in your contact information, I'm sure people would greatly appreciate that. And Leslie Rubin, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Leslie.
Ready.
Awesome. So how does IRTS work with other peer initiative services throughout the state?
So that's a great question. And as everyone was sharing, I can incorporate so much of what everyone else said into my answer. And we've actually, so IRTS has actually worked specifically with, we've done referrals to STAR. We've done referrals to MWRAP. We've advised people to call Hope Line. So one of the things that, is I don't want to use the word unfortunate. So we only can take referrals for the Department of Corrections. So and the complication to that and the frustration I think sometimes that we feel as a program is that although it's a Department of Corrections program, I think different parts of Department of Corrections have different feelings about the program as a whole. So not everyone always knows about it when they're incarcerated. So and if you don't know about it when you're incarcerated, it's hard, so we take referrals by 3 different avenues when they are behind the walls of the Department of Corrections facility, which, just an additional component to that does not include county jails and does not include halfway houses. It has to be one of the main 12 or 13 larger facilities. So you can be referred by your clinician, which not everyone has in the Department of Corrections, by the medical department, by yourself if you're made aware of the program, or by, we do have a small component of our team goes into prisons and does a peer recovery seminar program, which is amazing. They do amazing work. So when they come out, sometimes what we run into is really simple, basic things. Like they'll know they're bunky. They keep in contact with them and they come out, and then one guy has the program and one guy doesn't. And unfortunately, we can't sign them up. So those are situations where we'll then link them to some of these other programs that are out there that, like Nafisa said, thank God, take everyone. So we can refer to STAR. We can refer to, let's say, and I can use a couple of specific examples too, just for our program, people that were involved with our program and still were linked to these other programs. So we refer to STAR anytime we can, and most of all at graduation. So I didn't mention that our program is a year long. There's 3 distinct phases. It goes by a model that was adopted, an evidence-based model. So for the first 4 months, we're seeing people once a week. For the second 4 months, we're seeing them twice a month. For the third 4 months, we're seeing them once a month, and then theoretically they graduate. So a year after incarceration and that first year of recovery, obviously sometimes people need help a little bit longer. And I really liked what everyone said about, it's not linear. There are points, I'm 10 years into my recovery, and there are points where I'm like, can I get a STAR worker? Can I get some help over here doing whatever I'm doing right now? Because, we all just, it's a process. So we'll refer to STAR then. Another example, and it's worked out incredibly well. We have a ton of people in Essex County, so we do referrals to Nafisa all the time. I just met someone where I called with him in the parking lot, just to let his star worker know, because we try to do it a month or two before we end, that we were doing the graduation visit, that we were kind of tapping out, to let her know what we were working on and what to continue to work on. And then we had another, there was another example where I did an MWRAP referral. One of our participants, his girlfriend, had just had a baby. She had been in a Mommy and Me program. They released her with no aftercare, no medication. The peer that was assigned to his participant helped her get an appointment for Suboxone, and then we linked her to MWRAP so that she would continue to have the support. So we definitely work with other peer services, and it's getting to be a more popular modality of treatment. So I'm seeing these other agencies where maybe they didn't have peer services before, you're starting to see them. So kind of unrelated, but related, I just had a conversation with someone from the Innocence Project, which is an amazing organization separate from anything. And they actually are utilizing their own version of a peer support worker. They hired one of the exonerated participants that they had, and they hired him and are putting him through training to act as a peer within that agency. So I think that a lot of agencies are catching on to the value of having someone in that role.
Without a doubt. And I mean, I could tell you 10 years ago, I never heard of peer. Like, what is peer work? I was unfamiliar with it, as I'm sure most people were unfamiliar with it. But especially in the last few years, it's this explosion of realizing that individuals with lived experience make such an impact on people trying to get to a certain point in their recovery. So thank you, Leslie. I appreciate that information. And I also love all the shout outs that everyone's given. We keep going back and forth, shouting each other out. It's great. It's about that collaborative work environment. Leslie, does IRTS provide support for social services? So things like housing, transportation, etc.
So again, I'm going to shout out, the wonderful ladies that went before me. And I think Tennille actually really struck. So I think something that's super important, we don't do anything that participants can't do on their own, theoretically, right? Like as peers, we're not doing anything. We don't have our own $1 million fund that we're handing out money from. We don't have anything that people can't do on their own. But the thing is that people are not accustomed to doing things, these things on their own, or they're struggling, or they just need support, So again, to go back to like, for my program, you're coming out of a long-term incarceration you were using before you even went in. So we don't know what kind of skills you have or what you're comfortable doing or not doing for yourself to begin with. So Tennille really said, like, sometimes when we'll link people to social services, and the most important thing we do there isn't so much the application, because they could do that theoretically, but like we show up with them. When people are talking to them and they're getting frustrated, or they don't understand what people are saying, or they don't, just yesterday, one of my peers spent an hour doing a virtual appointment with someone, and they did the Medicaid application because he just could not get through it on his own. It was super frustrating. He didn't have all the information. He didn't know what to do, or like Rocky was talking about in the beginning, and I just to get into treatment is like so incredibly difficult, and you are keeping track. And then I had another participant that he had so many different services involved that he didn't know what everyone did, and he was getting confused and missing appointments, and we had to sit down and map out what he had to do. So it's really, our program technically is just linkages to these programs. So we help people when they get out, link them to social services, link them to entitlements, help them apply for Medicaid. We actually do, which is a huge advantage, not all the time, but we do have state cars and we can take people to appointments. But more than anything, like a lot of the other programs, we help link them with public transportation. And some of it is just knowledge. Not everyone, like a lot of us have said, this stuff, some of us have been doing this for 20 years. We know where to go, but not every, it's not common knowledge. So like New Jersey Transit has a reduced fare, and there's an application, and you can fill out an application to get a reduced fare bus card. Most people don't know that. So we print out the application, we give it to them, we explain to them how they need to go about doing it, and then we help them follow up. So really more, like that stuff. And I also just want to note, so we really, there's different, we're really a harm reduction program versus, so we don't have any specific type of recovery that we are linking people to. It really depends on where they're at and what they want to do. So we have people that are actively homeless. We offer to call 211. We have people that are actively using. We offer higher levels of care, but if they don't want to take it, then we work with them where they're at and what they are asking for help with.
That's awesome stuff. It truly is. And I just want to note that I think it's kind of funny that you mentioned NJ Transit in the same sentence as like navigating difficult things. Because I'll never forget, a few years ago, I downloaded the NJ Transit app. I downloaded it, but I didn't know how to use it. I was like, what am I doing? How do I add my debit card to this? How do I choose station to station? And I love the fact that, like, every person on this call, right, the key word that comes to mind is advocacy, helping the individual, advocating for the individual, hand-holding with the individual, and helping them navigate this oftentimes very difficult recovery world. So thank you, Leslie.
Of course.
With that being said, it is 2:22 and we are coming to the end of our session. I personally would like to take an opportunity to just thank, I want to say all your names fully: Rocky Schwartz, Marjorie Timmerman, Alba Canales, Sarah Mikulis, Tennille Jordan, Nafisa Downs, and Leslie Rubin. Thank you all for being here. This was absolutely fantastic. I'm sure if we were on Zoom, you'd probably see 173 people right now going like this and doing all the heart emojis and all that. This has been a really wonderful experience, not only for myself, but clearly just from the chat. I mean, the chat is blowing up with people thanking each and every one of you and asking questions that likely we won't be able to answer right now. So I highly encourage, if you have questions, if you have the information for a specific panelist or all of them, please feel free to reach out to them. Feel comfortable. They wouldn't have shared their information if they didn't want you to reach out to them. But again, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I'm privileged that I had the opportunity to facilitate this workshop. I really, truly am. That being said, I just want to, thank you guys, and I want to thank the attendees for being here. At one point, I kept an eye on the little eye symbol, and I think we were at like 190 at one point. So a lot of people were listening. A lot of people were paying attention. A lot of people were interacting in the chat and asking questions. And I also want to thank the attendees. We thank you all for being here. We thank you for the work that you do and the the work that you continue to do and the populations that you serve. It's all really good stuff. So lastly, I did pin the survey link to the top of the chat. I will put it again in the chat right there. Actually, no. That's not what I did. I will put it in the chat again before I close. But please fill out the survey. It's pinned to the top of the chat. If you just click on my face right there with the message that I sent, you'll see a link. And please complete that to obtain your CEUs. Once you completed the survey, there will be a certification of completion that will be sent to your email, the one that you registered with. And lastly, we have one more workshop at 3 p.m. this afternoon titled Finding Your Way to Relief. I truly hope that you'll all come and join us over there so we could close out this summit accordingly. And one last time, just want to say thank you to each one of you. This was a wonderful discussion, and I really appreciate you all being here.
Thank you, Tim. You did an amazing job.
Thank you, Tim. What an amazing job.
You just said you rocked as a moderator, and I agree. Yes, you did, Timothy.
100%.
Yes, you did.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, everybody. I truly, truly, truly appreciate that. And with that, everyone have a wonderful day.